here on a Saturday morning doing a full live tutorial. So I am going to be demonstrating all the steps that I had to go through to do this dope ball fade on my client Pat here. Um, Love this haircut on him. It fits his head shape perfectly. And yeah, we're going to get right into it. We're going to add enhancements. We're going to do a razor line. We're going to do a beard trim. Yeah, we're going to do a beard trim as well. So yeah, we're gonna get into it. So let's stop wasting time. Let's go ahead and hop into this thing. If you have any questions in the chat, my client Pat is gonna go ahead and follow along with us, and he's gonna answer the questions that you. Well, he's gonna let me know the questions that you have, and I'm gonna try my best to answer them for you. All right. So let's go ahead and get this point of view mount set up. All right, Pat. So any special instructions, bro? You got anything that you want to change about how we did it last time?
No, just beard.
Dark beard.
Yeah.
All right, so let me show y'all what I'm working with. Flip this camera around. All right, so it's been about 2 weeks since the last cut, maybe 3.
A little over, yeah.
Okay, so we're doing keeping the beard dark. So I'll probably go over it with about a 1.5 just to make sure it's even. The top, you want to have thick waves,
Yeah.
dark waves. What are you thinking?
Dark waves is a little shorter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just keep it dark, not too thick. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna probably go with the grain only. Looks like he's been training his hair, so I'm gonna maintain all these waves and just go with the grain. And mid-high, low ball fade. What you thinking? You want to drop it?
Yeah.
Drop ball fade. Any arch?
No.
Okay, cool. All right, y'all. So let me put this mount on my neck. And I'm actually gonna start off the cut. And y'all, please drop a thumbs up or let me know if you guys can hear me, if my audio is fine. But I'm gonna go ahead and clean up his hairline first. So one of the most important things for me with every haircut, every client, is making sure that their hairline is dry and it's clean, that there's no oil. The enemy of a sharp line is oil and too much moisture. So if I do that first, it gives his hairline, his skin plenty of time to dry. And then, yeah, I'll be ready on the back end of the cut to just jump right into giving him a nice, clean, sharp line. All right, so let's do it. I'm gonna go with the Caliber BMGs, and he said he wants it dark on top, but not too thick. So I'm gonna go with my zero guard open and just comb through it. All right, so first step, just comb through the waves and make sure everything's flowing in the right direction. Are we doing a part too? Put the part back in. Yeah, cool. So I'm gonna go with zero open, y'all. So I'm all the way open in this lever. I'm just raking through. Now, I'm typically a fan of going against the grain. That if I have a preference with all my haircuts, I prefer to go against the grain. And the reason why is it gives you a much smoother, more balanced looking haircut. Now, you can definitely still accomplish that with a cut going with the grain as well. It's just way harder to do, right? It's more difficult because you're really just laying down the hair on top of each other. So it's great for preserving waves, but not necessarily the best for giving the most even looking haircut, right? Because really you're adding texture. The waves, your clippers are kind of bouncing up and down. So to get it looking even, you have to go over it a number of times as opposed to against the grain. If you have some really good clippers, just a couple passes against the grain, you're fine. So this is the swirl area. Being careful not to cut it against the grain, right? Because I started with the grain, so I have to follow with the grain all the way around. And the swirl kind of goes like this, so that's the way I'm cutting. Pat, you seen me? Have I done a full haircut on you before? Like using the point of view?
I don't think so. No.
It's weird watching
I mean,
your own
it's not
haircut.
weird. It's dope, actually. Just imagine if I had a client this week. I don't know. No. Do it like this.
Right. You missed a spot on top.
Right. So you have to do this.
That reminds me, I had a client earlier this week, man. It was a child cut, and typically another barber cuts them, and they do a different type of hairline. You know, every barber has different. The way that they cut is slightly different, right? Different perspective,
Yeah.
different skill set. Um, so they did his hairline differently, and I made it more narrow. So they typically brought his hairline kind of further out by the back of his eyebrows, but his hair grows further in. He's pretty young, so I kept it further in,
Yeah.
which kind of narrowed, the
The
box in the
box.
front.
Yeah.
But it's a longer lasting type of hairline, so that's why I did it. So after I finished, he's like, "Hey man, can you bring it out further? I think it looks better out there." So we kind of just went back and forth a little bit. I wasn't insulting or anything like that, but I just wanted to break it down to him what the benefits are of keeping the hairline more natural in a young kid.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, that's what he wanted, so I just went back and changed it because they have to walk around with it. They have to be happy with it. They're paying for it. He understood what I was saying. It was just a personal preference.
Yeah. When I will get older, you know why his hairline start receding or whatever.
No, I hope that ain't the case, man. But I didn't do a razor when I took it further out, so hopefully his hairline stays intact. I would say that the wider hairline made him look a little more mature, right? It um, wasn't as natural. I like
Yeah.
to keep kid cuts pretty simple. All right, so another tip for y'all across this front hairline, his waves are kind of bouncing up and down, and it's not looking very even right here. So I'm going to go against the grain using a bigger guard just to make sure this front area is clean and it's laying down evenly. That the tint, I guess, or the hair color, how dense it is, kind of looks as even as possible, and that's going to help me on the back end. Matter of fact, after I do this, then I'll go ahead and clean his hairline up. Yeah, I got lost talking about going with the grain against the grain, so I didn't clean it up yet, but I'll do that next. So right now I like to use the Gillette foam for sensitive skin. So I use that foam, put it on the front hairline, and wipe it off with a hot towel, and just give it time to dry. Put a little back here too. That's where I'm going to put his parts. So I want to make sure his scalp down in here is nice and clean, oil free as well. And I also like to put it on the back of their neck sometimes, y'all. Like this back nape area sometimes is a source for irritation and bumps. So I'll go ahead oftentimes and just clean up that area, even if they don't have any bumps or irritation. I just want to make sure that I'm eliminating any possibility, right? What's the question say at the bottom, bro?
What if you don't have a hot towel? Can you use a substitute?
Yeah.
What can you use for a substitute, actually?
Instead of a hot towel. Good question. So if you don't have a hot towel, you can just use a regular paper towel or just a regular. It could be a dry towel. Or if you don't have either the foam or the towel, you can use regular isopropyl alcohol. That'll work really well as well with getting oil off of the skin and drying out that area. Um, but also, I encourage you to encourage your client to come with their hair already clean. This is less of an issue if your client's hair is already prepped before the haircut, right? Because clean hair is always cuts better. You always have a better result, better product if hair is already clean. Just like a stylist, right? I think some guys have it twisted thinking that their hair can be in any condition and a barber is just supposed to fix it and make it perfect. But a lot of times we spend too much time trying to get the hair in the right condition to do a dope haircut as opposed to spending more of that time actually doing the dope haircut. Um, I hope that makes sense. But the way I like to think about it is if they come with their hair prepped, then I have most of my time I can just spend on perfecting the blend. All right, so now establishing my bald line. Hopefully, I answered that question for you, bro. Give me a thumbs up, or if you have a follow up question, you need some more clarity, go ahead and drop it in the chat. I'm gonna go ahead and set his corner of his hairline. Bring it out here. Now setting that line up front, now I know there's a reference, right? I can visually see where the corner is. And even as I get to the point where this is mostly faded out, now I know that this is where his line is. I don't have to do any guesswork. Let's go ahead and just establish a hard line. Now this is definitely a more advanced technique. I see a lot of barbers use their liners to put in hard lines like this. Though I do cut like this often, I don't teach often to do it this way because I think sometimes barbers don't necessarily know or have the best technique to take out that hard line. Because if you're using your lineup clippers, these should be set to be really sharp, so that line's going to be really defined and in there. So I'm going to show you how I get it out. But if you're just starting off and you're just starting out fading, I wouldn't recommend putting a hard line in there. And again, establishing this front line. I'm looking for the point of consistent density. It's too sharp. A little bit. Okay. I was asking if they were too sharp because I noticed that Pat he squinted a little bit when I was going on the corner. And the corner of your hairline for anybody is sometimes one of the most sensitive areas. You know, here in the corner, the back of the neck right there, the back of the hairline can be really sensitive. So those are places that you want to pay attention and kind of look for body language, right? You don't want any part of this haircut experience to be uncomfortable for them. So if it's looking like it's being a little uncomfortable, if they look like they may be in pain, yeah, I guess technically you can have them suffer through it for the for the sake of a dope haircut, but why? You know, switch up your liners, switch up your clippers, check to make sure that the blade is not um, set unevenly, because that may be the issue, right? Sometimes you may have one side set and the other side may be overlapped a little bit and biting. So just pay attention to your clients and watch their body language. All right, now I'm checking for symmetry with this line because this line is going to set the foundation for the rest of my fade. I'm looking like we're pretty good. Okay. Pat's hair is pretty dense, so I'm going to go ahead and clear my fade section using a 0. And I'm going to take this up about 1.5 inches to give myself plenty of room to fade. Now again, this isn't one technique this is only one of a few different techniques that I use. Um, I know that if you want your fade to be really custom and fit your client, then it's difficult to do that while having one and only one fade technique. So in this case, Pat has dense hair. He has a lot of hair per square inch. That's what density means when we're talking about hair. Is how much hair do they have in a given area, right? Some clients have low density hair, which means it's not as thick, not as dense in here, it's not as many hairs. So you have to fade with it a little differently. For him, he has a lot of hair in this section, so this is the technique I'll be using and that I will use whenever I have somebody with dense hair. All right, at this point, I'm going to be working a little faster, y'all. This is kind of give y'all insight on my normal speed and cadence when I fade without trying to record live. So again, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Right now, I'm not doing one-on-one in-person tutorials, but this is the best way for anybody to get any insights on how I fade, why I do certain things, how do I polish up my haircuts. So please ask the questions, and Pat's going to try his best to help us out, man. Hey, you want Kyrie?
Hell yeah. Hell, that's all we can do.
Yeah, it's definitely an upgrade.
All we can do.
Yeah, I think we'll get him. It's just a matter of time. But
Probably nobody want to wrestle.
yeah, that contract sucks. Both of the contracts suck, but
That's contract, man. But you know, I was seeing they were trying to do a 3-way with San Antonio, but you know San Antonio trying to tank for that French kid next
I haven't heard about him. Supposed to be dope.
year. Yeah, he's taller than the Chet kid that just came out.
Oh wow.
Probably like 4 inches taller than him.
Sheesh.
They can move like Kevin Durant, bro. Old black French kid.
We'll check him out. All right, so now you see how, guys, this is a little uneven through here because I didn't go against the grain. So right in here, this section's a little dark. It's a little dark in here, through there. It's not a big problem, but that's something that would have been solved if I was to go against the grain. So it's not like I can't go against the grain. Pat wouldn't have cared. I mean, he just wants me to do my normal, nice haircut on him. But I just want to show you guys what the difference is and why I choose to go against the grain to start. Unless somebody comes in and they're super adamant about, oh no, I want my waves, and then I've been training them and woofing for 6 months and all that. Okay, cool. We'll stay with the grain. But if they're not like that, then I highly recommend that you go against the grain and put out the best product possible without going through the most to get it to look even. And again, thanks for joining, y'all. If y'all just tuning in, this is a series I'm going to start doing, y'all. I'm actually building out a product for barbers. So if you're on this live right now, you're getting one of the first announcements of what's going on. And I'm going to be doing more full tutorials, breaking down my haircut sequence and breaking down all the steps I do and the different hair textures. So, if you're tuning into this live right now, you're actually going to be a part of that process. So you asking questions is going to give you not only you some insights on how I fade, but also any barber that tunes in later to the tutorial series that I'm going to be doing. And now I'm going with the zero guard. This is all the way open. So I set my guideline with zero guard closed. I'm all the way open now to knock out some bulk. By no means am I trying to polish this haircut yet. I'm just now knocking out the section that I know I need to go back in detail later. So I kind of divide my fade steps into two main sections. One is I'm setting my guideline section. I'm knocking out weight. That's my first priority. Is I want to know where I'm fading. I want to know what I'm working with. Pat's hairline has been dope for years, but what if, God forbid, like all of a sudden there's a bald patch right here, right? So I need to make sure I clear my sections to see what I'm working with first. And then at the end, I go through and I detail, right? So for me, that first half of my fade, where I'm going through and I'm setting guidelines and I'm knocking out bulk, that's the part of my haircut that should take me no more than 5 to 10 minutes. Right now, I'm educating, so it's different. I'm taking my time on explaining, but in under normal situation, Pat, we have been fading by now, right? We're talking about basketball. That's what we normally do, but I would have been to my fade section. I think when you're trying to save time and work on your speed, a lot of barbers take way too much time on the front end of the fade, what I just talked about. They take too much time knocking out bulk. They take too much time setting their fade lines. And those things are important, but once you work on the speed and the efficiency of getting through those first steps and knocking that out in about 5 minutes, your fade time will definitely increase dramatically. All right. Pat about to be a barber with all this free game he's getting too.
I could have been a barber, man.
It could have been one.
From
So
all
I think I
the
know that too. I think for
all the
me, the way I look at it is a lot of the people who appreciate the kind of work that I do, the more detailed work, I think they had that eye to see the difference between a better looking fade and a more advanced detailed fade and just a regular haircut. So those people definitely could have been barbers for sure. And I know you do some art too, bro. So that was kind of my background. I started off drawing and sketching, drawing comic book characters and Dragon Ball Z characters. So what's up, y'all? Again, early good morning to y'all. Good early morning to y'all. I'm an early bird myself. I like to start early. My schedule usually opens up at 8 a.m. Pat was gracious enough to come in early enough to donate his time and his head to this tutorial. So we're gonna actually walk through this entire process, and I'm gonna be showing y'all all my fade techniques with him. If you have any questions, please drop it in the chat. What happened?
we took that. I could be a barber if I want.
Shop, yeah, she could definitely be one. She cut my hair during the lockdown. Now it took 4 hours, you know what I'm saying? But she could definitely be one. All right, putting back on my one because I'm now trying to clean up this fade, and I see like the density is a little uneven through here, so I'm gonna knock out some of this weight.
Where can I get that little hair more?
Oh, this one, Amazon, y'all. I'm definitely a gadget guy. This is on Amazon. If you go back to my Instagram, you'll see it on my barber recommended toolkit. Um, but Amazon is where I got this thing, man. It's pretty handy. I had one before that was way louder, but this one is perfect. It actually has like a little vacuum on top too. So if I wanted to, do the most, I could definitely do it with this. But you recharge it, has a micro USB port to it. So yeah, pretty cool little tool, man. The barber that works in here, Newland, he actually put me onto this. I'm not sure what the price is right now, but just look it up on my link on my Instagram. Fade out the sideburn real quick. So guideline, bottom of the ear, all the way open, middle of the ear, halfway, top of the ear, closed. Quick little sideburn taper technique. Again, bottom of this patch, open, halfway, closed. All right. Now you remember in the beginning of this cut, y'all, if you were tuned in from the jump, I put in my hard bald line with my liners, and those are my Babyliss Gold FX liners. They're set not quite to zero gap, but they're really close. So that's the technique that I do when I want a really sharp, clean ball fade. And I typically don't teach barbers to do it that way because it's harder to get out the ball line. However, if your clippers are set properly and you're able to pretty much zero gap your clippers as well, then it shouldn't be too much of an issue transitioning from your trimmers to your clippers. So that's what I'm doing now. And if there's still a line at the end, then you can use a notching technique to knock that out. You can rake. That's another technique. You can rake through it with your liners as well to knock it out. But typically, whatever you put that line in with is what you're going to have to use to take that line out.
What's the difference between a fade blade and a taper blade? Which one do you prefer and why?
Great question. This is considered a fade blade. So I don't know if you can see it in the live. I'm trying to get close. Fade blades are typically thinner in structure. So this is the cutting blade with most of your, I would say probably 99% of your clippers. The cutting blade does not change. The difference between a fade blade and a taper blade is just this back stable blade. A fade blade are always more narrow, they're skinnier. They actually come to a really slim point up top, which in turn gives you more of a detailed fade. But the negative to that is it leaves really little room for error, right? So the taper blade by design, let me see if I can find one in my station. The taper blades by design are wider and they actually assist you with fading and getting through your sections. So the fade technique that's taught and that works best with getting through cuts and blending through sections is a scooping technique like this, right? The fade blade, it doesn't really help with that scooping technique. So really it's all on your wrist and all on your eye to make sure that you're doing the right stroke. The taper blade assists with that, right? So it's actually shaped in a way that helps you lift up that hair and get that C stroke more easily than the fade blade will. But the fade blade is more for advanced barbers who, have a little more control with their wrist and is able to execute that C cup stroke without having to use the blade to do it for them. Now, if my goal was strictly about speed and I felt like I didn't need any more detail, then I would go strictly with my taper blade. But I really love the effect and the blend and the shadowness that a fade blade would give me. So that's why I use fade blades instead. All my haircuts I use fade blades. Every clipper I usually switch them to a fade blade because it just gives me more of a blurry, more detailed look.
Question. When purchasing equipment, do you think it's cost effective to purchase online or go into say an ABBS location?
purchase online. So if you're purchasing online, are you purchasing from Amazon? Are you purchasing from ABBS, their online store? It depends on where you're getting it from. For me, the most cost-effective way to purchase equipment is in a wholesale environment. Now, that requires you to have a wholesaler's license. So that can be pretty tough for a lot of people to get because you have to have the right paperwork, and you have to spend a certain amount of money in these wholesale distributors. But I would say if you and a few other barbers are looking into buying at the same time, then you may be able to buy in bulk together and maybe work on getting that wholesaler license to be able to get a cheaper price. But if you're ordering just strictly from a regular retailer, I would say just shop online, shop around. If your concern is to get the best deal, then just use Google Shop to find out which retailer will give you that best deal. ABVS's prices aren't bad though; like they're pretty competitive. The best thing you can do is just make sure you take care of your equipment on the back end so you don't have to replace stuff as often. I recently posted a video on Instagram and I intentionally brought up a pretty hot topic and something that I knew would cause a little bit of a of an argument. And I was giving tips on how to do a sharp hairline. And one of the tips was to not oil your trimmers daily. So in my comment section, people were going crazy, like, "Oh no, you can't tell people that. That's how your blades get messed up." But really, it's not about oiling them daily. You really just need to maintain them about once a week or so. You can put clipper oil on them once a week and then just use clipper side or cool care daily in between cuts to keep them oiled in between cuts. But using a whole bunch of oil on them every day, it's tough for you to still give a really sharp line when your clippers are doused and your trimmers are doused in oil. Really, you need a little bit of friction between those blades. Imagine doing a haircut and your client has a whole bunch of oil on their scalp, right? You can still get through it, but is that the best condition? Nah. You want your client's hair to come with nothing in it so that your equipment can do the work. All right, so I'm gonna step back and then step in a little more so y'all can kind of see how this blend is coming out. I'm pretty much done. Smooth, clean fade. Now, yeah, you can definitely get this type of quality with the taper blade, but I just prefer the fade blade. And if you decide to use a fade blade, then make sure that you work on your wrist and making sure that your wrist is consistently giving you this C-cut motion, right? Up, making contact, and then back out. The taper blade, you don't have to worry about that. You kind of just go straight up and down. The taper blade will do that for you. Anything they want to learn about how to build, or y'all already set. Y'all already booked up every day. And if you are a barber logged in today and you're at the shop already or you're about to start, how many clients do you have on your books? What's your schedule look like? I want to get a feel for how y'all are doing. How much is the lag, Pat? It's about 5 seconds, 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's pretty. I'll say about 10.
10 seconds. All right. Quality good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. Now, what I just did really quickly was I went from my bald line up to my weight line, and I went from all the way closed to halfway to open. So I just went through quickly and did that technique. I know I didn't really explain it, but essentially I was on my bald line and I'm all the way closed. I go 2 notches open, I go up another quarter of an inch, stretching the skin to give me space to fade, right? So I'm stretching out the skin to make sure I can knock out every hair in that section, that I'm touching every hair in that section. So I'm halfway open, then I'm all the way open now as I get close to the top of my weight line. So if you remember, or if you were here early in the fade, I put in my bald line down here, and then I set my weight line up top. And between those two is where my fade happens, right? So above that is what I'm connecting to the top length, but beneath that is my fade section. In my fade section, I'm going closed, halfway, and open. Now I'm back to open, and there's a little bit of weight right here. So I'm going to use the corner of my clipper to blend that on out.
Quentin Hall says he has 11 pointers today. First one at 8.
Dope. So you about to start. Cool, bro. That's a good schedule for a Saturday. Quentin, what's your normal fade time, or how long does it take you to get through a haircut? And what equipment are you using? Are you using fade blades, taper blades? What type of clipper? As far as myself, y'all, I'm taking off every other Saturday now. So this is actually one of my off days. Pat is my only client today. The purpose of me coming in was just to do this live. I'm coming in early, cut Pat, give y'all some free game, and then head back home, spend time with the family. Um, I know Saturdays are a really busy day, but I've been cutting long enough, and I've been in the industry to where I can kind of be a little more flexible and choose how I want to work and what hours I want to work. So for me, Saturdays were the day that I wanted to get back and be able to spend more time with the fam. And yeah, it's working out pretty well for me, y'all. So I'm just gonna come in, do this cut, do this tutorial, and see y'all next week. Probably spend the rest of my day going back and editing some of this video. My plan is to do a more thorough breakdown and even go into greater detail afterwards. So make sure you set your alerts to my post. Pat, you remember Kobe Detail, right? No, I think I told you about this. That series Kobe
Oh
used to do
yeah,
details.
Peyton Manning and all
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
So I'm gonna be doing the same thing for these barbers. I'm gonna be breaking it down, going in, zooming in, giving some great detail.
Quentin Hall says my appointments are set at 45 minutes and they should improve. I can knock out a fade in 20 minutes. My go-to is the fast feeds
Dope.
with the fine-tooth cutter blade. Also use the 50 caliber cal by caliber.
Dope. Okay. Yeah, I love your lineup. Love the lineup. Yeah, fine tooth blade on the fast feeds. So I'm assuming that's the corded fast feeds, or these are the cordless fast feeds. All right. So my fade is done. I'm going to switch to my corded GTX blade. All right, it's time for the line. So you see his waves a little not so dense right here. So I'm going to go through, put a soft line on there because I'm going to line it up a couple different times. And I'm going to go straight across this light section. I'm not going to try to take it back. I'm not going to try to correct it. I'm going to use some enhancements to darken up his hairline. Yeah, I usually start at 8 too, bro. Yesterday I started at 7. I did 7 to 5 on that last week, Friday. Not last week, yesterday. Because I know I'm taking off today, I just came in a little early and cut somebody. You said no part? Put it in there?
Yeah. Both. He said both of them are corded and cordless.
Okay. Yeah, man. The corded fast feeds, man, love them. It's been a while, and I'm used to not using cords anymore, especially with my clippers. So I prefer my 50 cals. But really, I think all clippers that are going cordless now are really trying to catch up and to get to that quality of the corded fast feeds. Those were a really dope clipper. They still are a really dope clipper. All right. So his beard line, he likes to keep this wide. So I'm not going to come in and try to bring it straight down. I'm going to kind of follow this shape a little bit. Now, if your trimmers are really sharp, I wouldn't recommend going down with them unless you have them set perfectly. They could be too sharp and cause irritation. And sometimes your clients won't say anything, but you may be irritating them. So again, you can make them bear it, but what's the point, y'all? Every piece of this haircut should be a pleasurable experience, um, down to the way that your hands smell, to your breath, the clippers, the way that they feel on your clients. Nothing should be something that they have to just bear for the sake of getting a dope haircut.
Quinton said, "I gotta go, bro. I'll
Hey,
catch
man.
the rest on replay."
Yes, sir. Get it, man. Thanks for tuning in with us. Did I miss anything else? Anybody else jump in?
And I said, "Everything. I'm catching them all."
All right, cool. So my thought process with his beard line down here is that, um, I can go back and make sure that both sides are symmetrical when I line them up in the middle of his jaw when I'm standing in front of him. For now, I'm just going to follow this line that he already has there. Um, like I said, I've been cutting Pat for a while. He does a really good job of lining himself up and cleaning up his neck in between his full haircuts with me. So I don't have any worry that one side is, a little higher than the other. And even if it is, from what I see now, I'm kind of using this earlobe as a guide, kind of showing me if these both up if both sides are matching. So if I go to the other side, it should be right around the same, and it is, right. So the back of his earlobe is sitting right there on that line of the beard. It's about 8 o'clock now. Yep. So as I get to the end of this haircut, y'all, I think another barber should be popping up soon. So if you need any questions answered, go ahead and hop in the chat now. Pat, we keeping the mustache thick. You want me to trim it down at all?
You can trim it down a little bit. And actually, with the beard, I ain't gonna cut it
Okay, just put a line on it.
off. Yeah.
Enhancements. Throwing it back long.
Yeah.
This is a one guard all the way closed, y'all. This is my go-to guard if I'm trying to keep a thick, well, not thick, but I'm kind of keep his mustache dark without the thickness. One guard is what I would use. Um, Sometimes I can do zero open. If his hair wasn't as dense and coarse, then I would go with the zero open, which to me just gives a smoother look for less dense hair. There's not much difference between a zero open and a one closed, but sometimes that zero open will just give you a smoother blade, a smoother finish. The hair feeds all the way down through to the cutting blade. the one closed, it gets cut at the top of the cutting blade. Okay. Keeping a wide mustache.
Yeah.
All right, so another visual guide that I'm using now is the corner of his lip. I don't want this line to go any lower. Pat doesn't want his beard to go any lower than the corner of his lip, and that's what we consider to be a high beard line. Now, naturally, if I wanted to keep it as natural as possible, then yeah, I can just put a line really high up here, but it's not going to connect, and there really is not any hair growing through here. So for us, the high beard line will be right around there, right around the corner of his lip. And on the other side, that's your reference point. Left my umbrella in the car. That'll be good. All right. So really light touch just there. I don't normally like to use my liners with the top of the beard, but just wanted to show that technique when you're using your trimmers. Um, if you are using your trimmers on the top line of somebody's beard, just be really, really careful. Sometimes these can be a little too sharp and cause irritation. And again, you don't want to have any discomfort, right? So work on your razor game and really get up your skill set so you can give just as sharp of a line with your razor as you can with clippers. The razor is a really great tool because it gives you the precision without the discomfort. Now, yeah, you do have a little more risk of cutting somebody, but if you're using the right techniques, it's really simple to use. And over time, you'll be able to master it and get faster and faster with it. All right, so time for the razor line. I use double edged Dorco blades, and I actually position this blade to sit on top of the razor holder to give me more exposure. I just love the precision that this exposed blade gives me. All right, so I like to use this product called No Burn. That's what's inside here. That's No Burn, Noburn. I don't like to use shaving gel or shaving cream when I'm doing a razor line. For me, No Burn is the perfect product. It's a great way to still give me the smooth surface that I want without the buildup of gel. Sometimes gel, when you're using it, especially if you put it all over the top cheek, it can really build up as you go from all the way down to that beard line. Let me step in a little closer so y'all can get a better view. So No Burn gives me a really smooth, clean shave without the buildup on the line. And I'm all up in Pat's face. So let me do a quick breath check. Got this from my dentist, y'all. A little, let's make sure we good. All right. All right. So see, I kept this line right here at the corner of his lip. That's, for me, the high beard line reference point, the corner of the lips. Some people will naturally have a super high line that goes way up here. You'll find that maybe 1 out of every 15 clients have a beard that goes that high. And really, this line right here, for most clients that I've cut over the years, this is also an abnormally high beard line, right? So just be aware of that. When somebody says they want a high beard, be aware of what you're able to accomplish with their natural beard line. And it's okay to have a beard line that dips down a little further, as long as you stretch it down on the bottom of their neck to give them that wide appearance, right? Like a perfect example would be Jeezy, Young Jeezy, the rapper. His beard is always looking really dope and pristine, but his line doesn't grow this high. He only has his beard going to about right here, maybe like the bottom of his bottom lip. But what he does to give him that look of a full beard is he just drops his line down lower, right? So if your client is looking for that full beard look, but they don't have that high beard line, that's the best way for you to do it. So stretching the skin and just dragging this razor across the top of his beard line. I'm not adding any pressure. In my mind, I'm thinking about maintaining a 45-degree angle, because that's how I avoid nicking or cutting him. Now, does it happen? Hell yeah. Yeah, I still nick clients. I've been doing this for years. Do I still nick clients? Yes, it happens. But I think the best thing a barber can do is just be aware of the angle, making sure they're using some type of moisturizer when they're lining their clients up with the razor, and then just owning any kind of nick or mistake that may happen. People understand the risk. It's a razor, right? They understand what they're getting into. But when you try to hide it, or you're trying to blame them for moving, or that's when it gets a little weird. So just own it. It's a nick, right? Say, hey, bro, I nicked you. I'll definitely clean it up after I finish. That's the best way to handle it, y'all. Remember when I first started cutting, man, I used to be so nervous using the razor. First time I used the razor was in barber school, and it was on a lady doing an eyebrow arch. Now, mind you, this is barber school, right? So the expectation for people who come into barber school and they're getting cut by a student, it should be low, right? They shouldn't be expecting the best quality. Matter of fact, when you go into barber school, you have to sign a waiver saying that, whatever happens, happens. This is a student learning on me. Now, I'm such a perfectionist, and y'all, I'm a Virgo, so, take that for what it is. But I did not cut this lady when I was doing the eyebrow arch, but it probably took me about 45 minutes to get through the entire process of doing her eyebrows, because I was so worried about cutting her. Now, how did it turn out? I really don't remember, but I do know I didn't cut her. For me, that was all that mattered. So the best way to stay safe is keeping a 45-degree angle and stretching the skin. And just being confident with your strokes, and making sure your client sits still. That's part of it too. I bet. Any more questions? You got any questions about the razor? Again, stretching the skin, blade at about a 45-degree angle. The more steep it is, the more you do it like this, the less likely it is that you'll cut them. But 45 is like the perfect in between, right? You'll be able to get a nice sharp line without having to do too many passes. And the more times you have to go over the area, the more irritation happens. Which for you, in your mind and in your perspective, it doesn't really matter how many times you go over it. But if you think about it and you put yourself in your client's shoes, you're actually removing a layer of skin using the razor. So The more times you go over and over and over again, you're actually causing more and more irritation. So just be mindful of that. I'm keeping this mustache high, 45, just dragging this razor across the top. A little advanced technique. Check it. I'm gonna go across the top or the bottom of his top lip. So this isn't a beginner technique, but all I'm doing is putting the razor on my line and just flicking off, flicking out. This is good for just an even more clean, um, adding even more definition to their beard, especially if he's like Pat. If your client's like Pat and they like to wear their full beard and keep their lines pretty high, then a good way to give them some great definition around their lips is to go over this bottom line. Take your time when you do it. All right, so even here, I don't know if y'all can see, but his skin's a little irritated, which means that my liners were a little too sharp, so he's a little red there. Nothing too bad, but I'll make sure I put some astringent on it. But that's what I mean by just owning what happens. Nobody's perfect. Clients recognize that. And if your client has that expectation to where you will never nick them or you'll never leave any kind of red mark on their skin, then it may be time to either have a real conversation with them, like, hey man, let's talk about expectations and reasonably what can I accomplish and what you're looking for in a barber. Some people just want to nitpick and they feel like because they're paying for their haircut or they're paying a premium for their haircut that they can overly micromanage you or, you know, belittle you. But just because you're a barber doesn't mean that anybody can talk to you any kind of way. That's kind of the way I look at it, right? I'm a man like you're a man. And yes, I'm serving you with this haircut, but at the end of the day, let's just stay respectful and let's be realistic about expectations. All right, so finishing touches, about to do the enhancements. I'm gonna check on my gun because I didn't clean it out last night, so I believe there's some color clogged inside of it. So I don't think I'm gonna get the best results with using the gun. When I say gun, I'm talking about my semi-permanent dye um, airbrush. Hope it fade clean. Barbers, you ever wish that y'all can cut your own hair? Is it just me? I wish I can take my head off and just put it right here.
What's up, man?
Or I wish I could somehow give you this point of view camera and like, I don't know. I always wish I can cut my own hair, man. Maybe I'm tripping. No, I'm not tripping. I know it ain't just me. All right, so I'm just testing my air gun out, seeing how it's gonna spray. For Pat, I like to do two types of enhancements. We'll do the semi-permanent dye, and that's coming out okay. Maybe I can see that. So we'll do the semi-permanent dye first, and then we'll follow it up with some fibers. I'm using this little card that I made in the shape of like a bold P. This I kind of designed it just to get into these corners easily and give myself some sharp lines. What up, Jay? Morning. So yeah, the gun spraying just all right. It should work. If I finish up this cut, I never want my enhancements to be too bold, so I like to use a dark brown color. And I'm just looking just to add an even layer of color and enhancements around his hairline. But do not neglect, don't forget that you have to make sure that you balance out this color. If you just spray enhancements right on the hairline, yeah, in the shop it may look good, but once they get into a different type of lighting situation, you'll start to be able to see that all you did was just spray it right there on the hairline. So it'll be really thick, really dark right there, and then the rest of the hair will look different. So don't forget just to spray it out and even it out as you go through, or even grab a brush or comb, just comb it in to make sure it's evenly blended, all right? And again, I'm using light color, light enhancements. I don't want it to look too crazy, too dark. All right, just see how I'm doing, just filling in these light spots. What's up, bro? All right.
Um, I bought that airbrush from Sestaman, and it
Siesto, man.
stopped work. Yeah, and it stopped working the second time I used it.
Second time. So that's an issue with a lot of airbrushes, man. It's not just Sesto Men's airbrush. Really, sometimes the color that you make, um, the formula or whatever the ratio that you use ends up getting stuck. That's happening right now, actually, as I'm live. Sometimes the semi-permanent dye gets caught into the airbrush itself, so you have to wash it out daily. Um, is that what you mean by it stopped working? Like, does the battery still work properly? Because if that's still working, then the issue is in the color going through the gun, not necessarily the tool itself. So as a backup, I'd like to use different products like this L'Oreal dark brown magic root cover up. This is a semi-permanent spray. So this is another tool that you can just use. So see how that one comes out easier, almost too easy. Because it's coming out so strong, I'm actually going to back up when I apply it.
Do you recommend fibers? I see a lot of barbers using some type of spray and set.
Yeah, this is another. This is a form of that spray. There's a black magic spray. This one actually, one of my clients is a stylist. He gave me this, so I would recommend trying this one too. I'm no longer attached to the semi-permanent dye spray gun. I know most barbers use something like this, but if you have a tool or if you have another one that's like this and you don't have to worry about the needle clogging up or having to mix and formulate your color, this is definitely a really great alternative. So ask your clients what they like, and I say try something different. If you're having a lot of trouble with the gun, just get away from it. If it's taking you too much time to have to go back and adjust and change it, clean it out all the time, yeah, it might be time just to put it down.
He said the battery stopped in that gun.
Oh, the battery stopped. Yeah, in that case, send it back. They have really good customer service, so I'll just send it back.
Someone wants to know what's in the air gun.
That is a mix of Kiss Express dark brown color and isopropyl 70% alcohol. My ratio is about uh, 80% alcohol, 20% color. To be on the safe side, you can do like 90% alcohol. But keep in mind, the thicker the color is, the more color you add to it, the more likely it's going to clog up in your spray gun. But on the other end, the least amount of color that you put in there, then it's not going to come out really dark at all, and you're going to have to spray a lot to get it to give you some definition. And actually, let me try this on his beard. I never used this on his beard, y'all. So let me see how this looks on his beard line. Again, because it comes out really thick and strong, I'm going to go ahead and back up when I spray it. Yeah, this is fine. I like this. What other brand of spray guns are y'all using? Does anybody have one that they haven't had any trouble with, or that stayed clean and didn't have any issues with the color? Tuck your lips in. I'm going to follow it up with the razor line again. Using really light touch because, again, I already went over his beard. Who was that asked that question about the Sesto Men spray gun?
Dalvin.
Devin, okay, cool. All right, so because I used that sprayer from L'Oreal, I'm not going to add any fibers this time. That one did a great job. So I'm just going to add a little more contrast using my pencil. So right in front of his hairline, through this part. Let's just add even more contrast to your finished product. And notice how all this stuff I'm adding after the full haircut was already complete. So none of these tools I'm using to enhance his cut are needed for him to still have a dope, clean, precise haircut. I think that's where we cross the line as barbers, stylists, is if we're using these tools to create the haircut as opposed to just enhance it. Just adding some contrast, and then I'll go back over it with my clippers just to blend it out. So again, really light touch, just smoothing it out. No more questions? About finished.
Nope.
All right, cool. So yeah, I'm pretty much done with Pat here. Again, this was a mid-ball fade. On top, I used a zero guard open to smooth out his waves. I dropped it down in the back beneath his occipital bone here, just so that this fade fit his head shaped a little easier, a little better. We do high ball fades too, but we usually only go high when we have more length on top. Remember, just as important, shape is just as important on a haircut and how it fits their head shape as the actual fade itself. You can have a dope fade and do it wrong and place it in the wrong place, and it just won't look good, and they won't get any compliments really. So consider the head shape. And this is it. We're done. Looking good. All right, so I'm gonna take this off my chest harness.
So I just use fibers, although I want something that has a better good hold.
Better hold. Yeah, so semi-permanent dye will give you a better hold. Even stronger than semi-permanent dye would be just regular, fully permanent. Um, you can use just for men. That's kind of my go-to. It's a quick formula, so it doesn't take long at all for it to mix and to apply to the hairline. But semi-permanent dye like Kiss is a great alternative to fibers. So just checking for symmetry. It seems like this side is a little darker. So I'm gonna go back over on the razor on this corner here. And again, nobody's perfect, right? So my trimmer's a little sharp on this corner. So I'll go through and look at my liners and make sure that they're balanced and just be more mindful next time when I line them up. Cool. You need to see the mirror or is this good enough? You want to see the mirror or is the point of view
This is
good?
good. Yeah, this is perfect.
All right, cool. All right, y'all, I'm checking out. If you want to get the neck harness, this is in my link in my bio on Instagram as well. I'll add it to my YouTube so you guys don't have to navigate back and forth. But thanks for tuning in. Again, I'm going to save this video and post it on my YouTube channel as well. If you guys have any other haircuts that you want me to do besides a temp fade, I think I'll do an afro as well. I'll do a more thorough beard trim. But yeah, just request it, add it in the comments. Please like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see y'all later. All right. Peace. Appreciate you, Pat.